I got more to say, and there's more to the story. If you didn't watch my last video, Married Without Children, I want you to stick around because I got more to say about the matter, okay? Unscripted, off the dome, this is what I really feel, and I want to go into more detail. So stick around. Let's talk, let's chat, let's do all of the things. Hey y'all, welcome in. My name is Angela. I think I've never really introduced myself. My name's Angela. And really, this is just a space for honest conversation, life reflections and story times, random thoughts and whatever else is living rent-free in my head. I'm gonna be talking about all of the things, okay? That can include a lot, and whatever life is deciding to teach me this week, that's what we finna talk about, or whenever it teaches it to me. So whether you're cooking dinner, or you're folding some clothes real quick, driving home from work, or just hiding in your room for a few minutes from everybody, we just want to have a little chit chat, little girl chat. So come on in and let's talk. But before I get back into more to the story and how I felt about my situation with my former friend Lisa, let me just update you on my weekend. How was your weekend? Mine was amazing. I went to a banquet celebrating both my uncle and my cousin who are honorees at a banquet. It was a scholarship banquet in memory of also my other uncle, who was the mayor of my hometown for about 30 years or so. So they did a scholarship in his name, and my cousin and my uncle were honored as, clergy and in education. So I did that this weekend. But the real highlight of my weekend, where I was super duper proud of myself, is church. A little bit about me: I do sing at church. I'm on my church's choir, and I'm on my church's praise and worship team. And this weekend, I had the privilege and the honor of leading an entire song. Okay. It was such an honor. That's the thing I want to say about it, because when you're singing before God's people, you can't just take it for granted, because you are a vessel that's being used to bless the people, to uplift the people. And my church, I can't say enough great things, especially about the praise and worship team and the music ministry. I grew up in church. I come from a well-known gospel family, especially regionally in the area in which I'm from. And, we know a lot of people, a lot of pioneers in gospel music, our family and things like that. And, I always tell the folks at church on my praise and worship team that, you guys are the best group I've ever sang with. And at my former church, I was on the praise and worship team as well. And I was beginning to be cultivated, to be more of a forefront leader, or someone that, can be depended upon. But sometimes in churchdom, that can be hard, because music ministries be hard. If we really tell the truth about the music ministry, everybody's not the nicest. Everybody's not the very kindest. And there is a difference between nice and kind. People aren't the most supportive, and that's sad. But I can say that the group that I'm with, super supportive, love these folks down. You hear me? I love them down. And shout out to our praise and worship pastor who asked me to lead, and I really took that thing seriously. Shout out to the team, because although I wasn't really nervous, but I wanted to do it right. And that might cause a little bit of anxiety, but they helped me. The musicians, Angela, we got you. Good job. Where I was not sure of myself, you know, someone stepped in to say, this is how you do it, or, you know, give me direction and correction. And I am grateful that I'm able to take direction, correction, and the help and the tips. And a lot of times in music ministries, people can be arrogant. And I've seen that over my life. And I don't want to be that way. I don't want to be like how people treated me. And sometimes we have to be careful, because sometimes we end up being the thing that we don't want to be. But this group, this church, and it starts from the leadership on down, have made me to realize those things and be intentional about not, you know, treating others the way I've been treated, treating people with respect. And then when you do get out of character, you know, check yourself. You know, if you have to go back to someone and say you're sorry, just do it. It's not going to do, it ain't gonna do you no harm. But anyway, I'm just super proud of myself because it came off really good. And, you know, I think that my team was proud of me. And I believe that God was proud of me and my church family. So it was an amazing honor. And yeah, I'm still just like stoked because I'm proud of me. And sometimes we need to take a moment just to say, hey, I'm proud of me. In my last video, I talked about my friend Lisa, who really hurt my feelings knowing the story behind why I don't have any children or was having, you know, a difficult time, you know, in my own fertility journey as a woman. And she was really insensitive to that, right? Coupled with the fact, you know, in the first year or two of my marriage, you know, people are expecting you to, you know, make a baby announcement and you're not, right? And then also at the time, you know, when I got married, which was so beautiful, another family member of ours got married as well, like literally 30 days before, right? And we attended their wedding. A month later, they attended ours. When they had a baby, and they came over to, you know, show off their child, you know, they're so proud, they're new parents. I felt a little awkward about holding the child at first because I felt like everybody was looking at me like, when are you gonna have a baby? You know, I felt that, you know, I would come over to family members' house and, you know, after a while, we're newlyweds, we try and hang with us, right? And I felt like that when I would come over to a family member's home who, you know, they're expecting these things, right? You get married. First comes love, then come marriage, then comes Angela with the baby carriage, right? And I remember one time coming in and, oh, I haven't seen you in a while. But I felt like the eyes shifted down to my midsection. Because people say you just got married, you're in the throes of passion of being a new wife and a new married couple, and you know you should be coming up with a baby announcement soon, and it never happened. And then you have another family member who got married basically the same time you did, a month apart, and they're having their first baby. And I felt like, for me, I felt like the eyes were on me, coupled with I'm going unknowingly to them through my own fertility journey. And then I got this friend who wants to, in a moment of you're frustrated with your own self, wants to go and throw dirt at me by saying something so senseless. Because I question, you know, just getting some more time with you before you moved, putting something on the books because my time is valuable too, and saying, I don't know why you're pressing me so hard because my friends with kids, we don't do X, Y, and Z. Girl, goodbye and good night. That's what I really feel about it. Girl, goodbye and good night. That's how I feel about Lisa to this day. And so for her to do that, it was really just so disheartening. Like, it hurt my heart so much. However, I learned a lot about me, right? And yes, I told you guys, I told my cousin Denise, you know, and she was really instrumental in saying, hey girl, your time is valuable. Now my cousin Denise has a few kids of her own, okay? She a full-time mommy and works, you know, and let me know, hey, your time is also valuable. It ain't just about her and her time is no less than yours. So bet, thank you. But also, I'm a person that wears their heart on their sleeve, and I had told another cousin about the situation. And that story is going to come back around, because not only did I learn about who Lisa was and was not as my friend, I also found out things about other people and where their allegiances lie. Ooh. Now, doesn't that sound interesting? I learned more, but we're not going to talk about that in that video. I want to do a separate video on that, because that's a whole life lesson in itself. And then I really want to really think on the topic. That moment with Lisa really just changed my life. And, I think that it really hurt me, but it also led me to also reach out to my maid of honor in my wedding. And I was telling her, about the situation. And she said, you know what? Sometimes we have to learn how to dream a different dream, right? I had a dream of having kids. I believe I am looking all good. I want to see, I always wanted to see who was going to get my curly hair. Would a child of mine get my smile? Would a child of mine inherit the musical abilities passed down in my family bloodline? Would a child of mine be a musician? Would a child of mine be a preacher? Would there be a doctor? What would a combo of me and my husband look like? And I don't have that, It's just not going to happen for me. And I can't say that it never is. I'm getting older. I'm in my 40s. If God could do it for Sarah, he could do it for me too. But yeah. But she said sometimes you got to dream a different dream. And guys, let me go grab a tissue real quick. I'm not crying. I didn't shed a couple tears because I'm sad, but it's a moment of revelation. Sometimes you do have to just dream a different dream. If I want to be a mom, there's foster care. That road has been explored, right? Adoption, that road has been explored. And whatever's right for me and my husband, that's what we'll do. But when you change your dreams, and it's okay to do that. Life doesn't have to be this way. Task doesn't have to follow a script. Sometimes things just happen, and you have to make the move how it comes and learn how to adapt and overcome. And I think that in my journey of life, that's what I have to learn how to do. Even being here on this screen talking about these things is adapting and overcoming. There was a lot of turmoil, with even me speaking on this topic. And, in more ways than one. But, I know that I'm not alone. I watched a video on YouTube. It was like moms versus the child free, right? And, the moms, some of them thought that being a mom, was their highest calling. And in my head, I'm just like, okay, girl, really? But at the same time, I'm not going to take away from their reality and what they wanted for their life. And maybe for that particular person, being a mom is the highest calling. Maybe they think for women that motherhood is the highest calling of a woman. And that's okay too. It just doesn't have to be true for me. What can be true for me is that I change my mind and move forward with life. I can't sit around and be depressed, right? Because I'm living my life, right? There's no worries, right? I have nieces and I have nephews that love me, that, I invest in, right? No, I said that, I don't always get those invitations. And in that video that I'm referring to, the child-free people say, hey, I don't get invited to stuff. Okay, I felt heard and I felt seen. And they were childless or child-free for various reasons. Some were medical, some were by choice, some were just very young and haven't got to the point in their life where they want to be so selfless in being a mother, right? And I understand that in motherhood, you have to be selfless. And when I really think about me and who I am, and I get into knowing myself, I don't know if I wanted to be quote unquote selfless. I love traveling. I love going on cruises. I love being able to get up and go. I love being able to pivot. And I think, that's okay with me. And I love that about me, right? But what hurts is, I think people operate and do things just because they're not trying to hurt your feelings, but it's just the way that life is moving. Me not getting invited to a little cousin or a baby cousins, or not getting the notification or being last to know or being told by a third party. Are they doing that on purpose to me? No, but I don't fit into the checkmark boxes, awares or unaware of I'm having a party for my little kid and let me invite all of the little cousins and their parents. But it still hurts. That's all I can say. There's so much more I can say. Like, you told such and such, but you didn't tell me, or because you have a relationship with such and such, even though they ain't got, but for me, it hurts, right? But I've moved past that. Now when I hear about it, because I heard about one recently, they were like, yeah, come, and such is throwing a birthday party for a cousin. Well, God bless, I'm not coming. I didn't say that to them, their face. I just stopped replying, to be honest, and just don't show up because I don't have to, wasn't expected. And when you're running around behind kids and trying to make sure that's all good, you ain't not thinking about me and whether I come or not. And that's just point blank in the period. But when you are in trying to reconcile with yourself about these big life goals that, especially for women, girls, that you're, institutionalized from birth, that you're going to be a princess, you're going to be a mom, you're going to be a wife, and all of the things don't line up, it is a shock to your psyche. And that's just what it is, right? On that video that I watched, and I'll try to reference it in the description box as well, some, thought, they wanted to be a mom, and they do love their kids, but they miss the freedom. They miss the being able to be spontaneous. They miss being able to be selfless. They can't stop thinking about their kids rather than taking care of themselves. And their kids are grown. And I understand that once a mom, always a mom. But I think that, not being on that side of it, I don't want it, Now, that's not to say I'm closed off from being a mother, whether that's through adoption, foster care, or fostering to adopt someday, one day. But for right now, where I'm at in my life, being able to get up and go. And earlier I was saying, hey, listen, I had a great time at church, guys, at least do those things, right? Had I had a kid and my husband's traveling for work, I got to bring the kid. I got to sit them down. I got to, I get ready in the morning, get glammed up. And I got makeup on this, one of my videos for once. This ain't going to be a habit. It's just what happened today, okay? But trying to get up, be on time. I hate being late. And then mothers be late. I'm sorry, that's my experience. Moms be late. I be on time. They be like, oh my God, I couldn't get little Ricky, little Johnny, little Susie together. I was just late. Unexpected things happen. And that would throw me off. I would have to find a new way to live. And sometimes I'm a little dramatic. I don't know how that's going to work for me, So there were so many different points, and nobody was wrong to me in that video, from the mothers, of the reasons why they, wanted kids, why they love being a mom, and to their regrets. And then on the child-free side, they talked about how they wish they could, or maybe you're helping me to, decide from the mom side whether being a mother is going to be, a right choice for me. And I think that, it was beneficial. for both sides. So really go ahead and check out that video. Like I said, I'll put it in the description. I think it's something really good because how I feel is I'm not the only one that feels that way. And that's good because, you know, I can't be alone in this. With Lisa, right? One of the things I had to also learn is that she probably was never a good friend for me. And let me say, Lisa is not a nasty person. I just think that she lives in her own head and in her own bubble and her own personal regrets or, you know, jealousies, envy. I'll give her the benefit in saying it's unawares. There's another word. She was like unaware. One of my friends don't believe that. She and I say, you know, I try to give people the benefit of the doubt, and she be like, my good girlfriend be like, no, they meant it. And I be like, she don't give no grace. But you gotta have at least one friend that don't play about you, and maybe finally I got that. I think that she wasn't a good friend for me. Like I said, we know each other since we were kids, and I'll say this in my next video, the follow-up video, like my mom was never a good, you know, my mom, may she rest, was never a fan of Lisa. My mother thought that she wants attention. So basically my mom was saying from the beginning, I don't like this girl like that. I don't see her as a good friend for you because she's a pick-me. We didn't say pick me 35 years ago, okay? But basically my mom said, you know, this girl's a pick-me. And my mom was right, you know, I really leaned in on heavily on Lisa to talk about my fertility journey, right? And this was the outcome. But I know that at one point while I was getting, you know, married and planning my wedding, and I don't know if it was probably after I got married, Lisa says to me, you know, just to be honest, you know, I was really, you know, I felt some type of way about not being in your wedding. And I was like, Now this is, of course, before we had this falling out, but I found it interesting at the time that she said that. And the reason being is that I did initially want Lisa to be in my wedding. You know, we were talking, she was so excited for me to get married and things like that. And when I was trying to, you know, just call her and talk to her about all things relationship-wise, she was already married. And I would call her phone and she wouldn't pick up. She also wasn't picking up around the time I was trying to, you know, get my wedding party together. And I had called her several times, never picked up and never called me back. In my head, I was just like, moving forward. And I didn't ask her. Okay. And fast forward, she's like, well, you didn't ask me. And I said, Lisa, I called you a lot and you didn't pick up. You called me, Angela? Oh, my kids had my phone. And that's what we're talking about. She has no personality. Her kids are her identity. Her kids are her world. And that's nothing wrong with that. But she don't see outside of herself. You only put yourself in your shoes and you don't put yourself in other people's shoes. And maybe being a mom brain and all of the colloquial terms has fogged your better judgment. Like, girl, like, no, if you can see by my face, it's even hard for me to articulate like the frustration. So I'm just gonna let it breathe. So you can't even take accountability and you blame the children. I know I should be saying uplifting things, but this is real life. And this is how people really feel on the inside. And no, I'm, you know, just spoke about church and God and, you know, what he's doing in my life. And I'm going to give God the glory for that. But honestly, we have people that we don't like, and we be saved, sanctified, and filled with the Holy Ghost, loving Jesus, and a nice and a kind person. But sometimes, and a lot of times, there is at least one person that we do not like. I'm so sorry, or we don't see it for. We may not mistreat them, right? We may be nice to them. We may tolerate them. We may treat them with kindness, be nice to them. But that doesn't mean that I cannot not like somebody, right? Okay. Let's just be honest. This is honest conversation, because I'm not going to lie to y'all. This is what we're going to build upon. So welcome in. Like I said, welcome in, y'all. Maybe if I sit here and say that she's delusional, maybe I was delusional too. Hindsight being 2020, I was in a relationship without much contact during the pandemic, and I had a little jewelry side hustle. I would, deliver it to her. She would never come outside or I was never invited up. I would drop the things off to her, and I would leave them at her door. I would come after the gym because, like her house was near my gym, and she'd be like, oh, well, I'm doing some with the kids. There was support with no real contact. We talked we talked, which is fine, right? A lot of these things were fine, but that's not the type of friendship that I needed. And I think I tolerated the friendship with her and let things slide, or didn't take it to heart because, oh, she has kids. Oh, I've known her since, I was like 7 or 8 or something like that. And, all of those things, but there was no benefits for me. I felt like I was not benefiting from the relationship. Sure, she would benefit, in my opinion, the relationship. If she wanted to go out, I'd be quick to say, yeah, girl, let's go. I just feel like there was no real investment on her side. I wasn't getting the friendship that I wanted from her, and I wasn't going to beg for it. Okay. And maybe I was delusional in thinking that someone who I saw when I wanted her to be in my wedding and she had to check out and blame her kids, someone who, if I was coming by, you couldn't even stick your head out the door 2 seconds and say, hey girl, thank you for dropping this off. I got to run back up with the kids. It was very one-sided. And I think that tired me out. I was delusional, and I think she's just delusional, period. I can say for myself, being just me and my husband, a family of 2, allows me to be selfish with my time, who I want to spend it with, and what I want to do. Even making this video, there's nobody going to be interrupting me tonight. I could talk about what I want to until the cows come home, but I'm not trying to do that because I'm trying to hurry up, make this video so I can make something to eat because I just came home from work. All of the things, and I'm proud of myself for doing that. So me and my good girlfriend went out for lunch this week, and it was a beautiful week. The weather is finally starting to break and be warm, and we went out to eat. We went to a restaurant called Honey Grow. Y'all know Honey Grow? Shout out to Honey Grow. Hey, Honey Grow. And we sat outside. We were just kicking it, And we ate our food. Everything was good. And we got some to-go boxes. And she was just saying, I'm going to bring this box home, and my son is going to think it's his. And before I can even get to the house, he's going to take my food, and he's just going to do what he want to do, think it's his dinner. And to me, in my head, and I told her, yuck. Yuck. Listen, if I overpaid for a Honey Grow salad, and I eat 5 bites of it, and then you go ahead with your no job, having self because you are a minor, eat my food, I'm going to be upset. This is me talking. Not her talking, but me talking. I know I'm talking. But because my husband do that stuff, he don't do it no more. I'll be upset. No, this is mine. Now I do share with him. But this is mine. That's the selflessness I don't want to know about. Leave my Honey Grow alone. Leave my kava alone. I love kava. Okay, shout out to kava. Hey. Leave my kava alone. Okay? Get your own. As my cousin would say, get a job. But, but not having kids and, I don't want to share my kava. I can eat my leftovers in peace at night. Watch The Real Housewives of Atlanta, Rhode Island, Love Island, Married at First Sight, Age of Attraction, all of the things. My K-dramas too. Hey, Royal Nemesis on Netflix, fire, okay? Love. Korean love stories are the best, okay? I can just binge out and eat my leftovers unbothered. Not can I get a bite unless my husband can get a bite, and he know how much to ask for, and then when to leave me alone. But you get what I'm saying, right? So that was something that resonated with me. And but in that relationship, there's a perfect balance of, I keep her grounded. So I think it's a perfect balance in that, and nobody judges the other. I respect her time and she respects mine. Whew, y'all, I am so hungry, so I better wrap this thing up because I could talk at length and I'm hungry. But before you go, let's talk amongst ourselves in the comments. Not because of you two people tell me to say that, but I'm genuinely curious, for real. Have you ever had a friendship that you had for years and years and then all of a sudden it looked completely different? Or did you realize that somebody showed you exactly who they are, but you just weren't ready to see it yet? Let's talk about it. And if you like conversations like these, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, okay? I'm speaking life. It may be 100 of y'all that might watch this video, but I'm also welcoming the thousands to come. Hallelujah. But until the next time, take care of yourself. And thank you guys so much for watching. I'm out. Peace.